Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is Michael Carrick's press conference reaction and we've got a lot to get into. We also have some transfer news coming out from Ben Jacobs as well, which I will bring into the show. But Michael Carrick, very, very cool, calm and collected, ready for Arteta at the weekend. How are you feeling going into that game, by the way? Don't get carried away is the message that Carrick is trying to tell to his players. Enjoy the derby performance, but that should be the standard week in, week out, and you love to see it. He's talked about a Ligt injury setback. When will he return? Carrick gave us the details. We will get into it. Also, big praise for Diogo Dalot. He was very much full of praise for Dalot. How does that make you feel? We'll talk about what Carrick said. Also explains the difference of using Mbeumo, Sesko and Xerxes as a centre forward and how each of them players brings something different to the role, and it really just depends on the opposition. Could you see a change up against Arsenal away at the Emirates, or is it going to be Mbeumo up top again? Also got my charger coming in handy because my laptop's going to die. Here we go, ready to get forward. Also, Carrick very impressed with Sesko, despite him not playing a minute in the derby. He was sure enough to be kind of intelligent enough to go and big up Benjamin Sesko. Says he's got a lot to bring. He needs to build on the goals that he scored, and it's different players for different games. So will he get some time against Arsenal? And he speaks about being involved in long-term decisions. He made it very clear, I'm not just here for short-term decisions, for short-term success. We want to build for the future, and that's what he's going to be involved in for the time that he's here. So let's get into it. Let's talk all things Arsenal and get your comments in the comments as well. Anyway, let's get into the first bit. What do we want to talk about first? Is it the Dalot injury update? Is that what we want to talk about? Okay, we'll get into that because I am missing Dalot massively, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are. I thought Ligt and Maguire were absolutely excellent together in the derby. They really were. Harry Maguire going and putting in that type of performance after not starting a game in God knows how many weeks. He was injured for quite a long period of time, hadn't started, and then just comes and starts a derby and is absolutely excellent. Him and Lisandro Martinez were very good. We do have Yoro, who's learning on the job. We have Aiden Heaven, who's learning on the job, who have both shown real quality. But when you need experience, your centre-backs really are Lisandro Martinez, Harry Maguire and Dalot. They're the experienced centre-backs. And Dalot was up there for contender of Player of the Year for United before he got injured. I mean, you even had rival opposition fans, talking about how good Dalot is. I've done a preview show with Cecil from AFTV, which should be out very soon on the United Stand, some point over the weekend or maybe even late on tonight. We'll update you when that's going to come out. But I was speaking to Cecil and he was saying, I'm very happy that Dalot isn't back because I think Dalot is one of your best players. Dalot is huge for us and we need him back. And when he first got injured, Amorim spoke as if he was only going to be out for like a game or so, and it feels like it's been such a long period of time. So this is what he said on Dalot's injury. Michael Carrick has said, hopefully he will be back soon. He had a setback before I arrived. It was only small. However, he's recovered slower than we thought. Hopefully he will be back in the next few weeks. So Dalot had a small setback when Carrick arrived in his recovery from injury, and it's going to be another couple of weeks at least, which probably means like 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks. And again, I don't want to be glass half empty, but I've seen that story before at United when you're told it's going to be a week or two and then it's another month. And it's just unfortunate that Dalot is still out, so I wanted to bring you that injury update because I think we were hopeful he was maybe going to make the bench against Arsenal or he was going to be back pretty soon, but that's not going to happen. We're going to have to deal without him, so hopefully Lisandro Martinez, who has been playing a lot of minutes recently, he can stay fit. Maguire can stay fit. Aiden Heaven has certainly got a part to play. He was doing really well, before Maguire got back fit and came into starting 11, which I think was the right call. He was doing well. Yoro probably needs to bide his time a little bit. So we have got players who can do it. Playing in a back four, you're not as set on having to play 3 centre-backs. You've got 2 centre-backs. You've got 2 there that can come off the bench. Mazraoui's done it before. Luke Shaw's done it before. So we've got options, but Dalot is huge for us, and it's just unfortunate that he's going to be out. And also, did you watch Michael Carrick's press conference? Did you watch it live and are you now joining me? Let me know, because I thought Carrick spoke really well. He just seems like cool, calm and collected. I know people can have aura in sort of different ways, and Michael Carrick, I feel like, just has that aura of calmness. Just a normal Sunday, pitching up to the Emirates and going beating Arteta. Just a normal Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, strolling up to Old Trafford and best performance in years, and we're just going to kind of absolutely thrash Man City out the water. That's what we're going to do. And it just seems cool, calm and collected from him. But he made sure to say, it's one game, the derby. You've got to follow it up, and they're not getting too carried away, which I think is the important message. And what Carrick knows is there's highs and lows at this club, and things can change very quickly. And it's good to have that sort of calmness within the group where you need to be full of confidence. You need to feel that confidence from your coach, from your manager. And I feel like that's what Carrick's doing. When Darren Fletcher was asked in his final press conference, what does the next manager need to do? He said confidence. The players are short of confidence. And I think, again, I don't want to harp back to Ruben Amorim, but he was very emotional, and sometimes the fans loved it, but also for the players, 1 minute your manager is saying you're the worst Manchester United side, then he's, kind of talking in extremities all the time and getting very emotional in press conferences. That can maybe knock your confidence a little bit. And, these are professional footballers who are paid a lot of money. You've got to be able to take criticism. But I think Michael Carrick has learned from the days where he was at United and enjoyed a lot of success, that a lot of that is kept within the dressing room. Like, he might go and absolutely rip a player. He might go and rip them at full time. Sir Alex, I'm not saying comparing him to Sir Alex, but he's dealt with, Sir Alex and how he would rip into players. So I think, of course, in a dressing room, you've got to be able to do that. But when you go and speak to the media and when you go and speak in public, you want to be bigging your players up. You want to be giving them confidence. And that's what he's doing. But again, I'm not getting too carried away. It's only been, one game, and I think it's been about just over a week of him even in there. So not getting too carried away with Carrick, but I like some of the things he's doing. And what I really liked is the fact he's bigging up Benjamin Sesko. He's taught, as much as, Carrick will know, and we know, that Dalot isn't the most consistent performer, but he's given him a lot of praise for the things he did well in the derby in public. He's given him that platform of confidence. And look, as much as us fans might sit here and say, Dalot is so inconsistent. 1 week he'll do this mistake, the next week he's losing his man. Like, why can he not be a consistent player? Like, fans have really kind of targeted Dalot recently. They really have, and Dalot's performances have justified that. He has been poor. I actually thought in the Manchester derby, when he got that yellow card so early on, he managed that game out really, really well. Like, Doku didn't get change out of him, Semenyo didn't get change out of him, and to get a yellow card that early, a very controversial one, to manage the game out and not be sent off and not concede, especially by your mistakes or down your side, that's good play. So, look, I'm a football fan, and with every single player, I'm just neutral and I see things how they are. If Dalot has a bad performance, as much as I like his mentality, I think he understands the club, he knows the club, so does a lot of people. They don't get to go and play for United. If Dalot has a bad performance, I'll sit there and say Dalot has had a bad performance. If he has a good performance, I'll say, I think he did well. And I think he did well in the derby. And what Michael Carrick's doing in the press conference is he's picking out the positives to try and give these players that injection of confidence, because Dalot's been through it in terms of criticism recently. Sesko has had a turbulent start to Manchester United. He didn't even come on in the derby, and that might have knocked him a little bit after scoring 3 goals in 2 games. But he's gone and made sure in these pressers that he's kind of bigged them players up, and I think that's important for squad morale and squad confidence as well, because he's not, a fan who can sit there and say, well, he should have tracked that run, or we should have gone and got an experienced striker. He's a manager who needs these players to give him their all and their best from now until the end of the season. And as fans, we need that as well. Whether you think Dalot should be playing for United this time next year, from now until the end of the season, we want him to be, play like he's the best right back in the league. That's what you'd want. You want your team to always be playing well. So I kind of like the way Carrick is managing that. So with that, I will speak about what he said about these 2 players. I kind of skipped through it a little bit. So about Diogo Dalot, this is what Michael Carrick had to say. He said, I thought he played ever so well last week. There was an incident with the yellow card, but to manage that and defend as he did was good. It has been ups and downs with his performance. So he's not hiding away from it, Carrick. He's not saying, Dalot's been absolutely the best thing since sliced bread, all season. He said that there's been ups and downs with his performance. However, Diogo is really focused. He loves playing for the club, and he did fantastic in the derby. So he's talking about, like I said, building his confidence. And quite a few people in the comments I can see, Mazraoui, he will be coming back. Would you, in this game, put Mazraoui in or would you keep Dalot in after his performance in the derby? Let's run a poll on that, actually. Let's run a poll on that, because as a player, I think Mazraoui is way more consistent. Mazraoui doesn't really have much attacking output, though. And Dalot, although he's super inconsistent with it, I don't know, it's difficult, because I think Dalot actually has more capability, but Mazraoui is just extremely solid week in, week out. Like, Dalot can have, like, 3, 2 out of 10 games in a row, whereas Mazraoui is going to give you, like, 7 week in, week out. Whereas I think on Dalot's best day as a right-back, he's better than Mazraoui's best day as a right-back. Do you get what I mean? Because Dalot, I think, has the capability. He just does not use it every single week. We just don't see the consistency. So, against Arsenal on Sunday, who are you starting at right back, Mazraoui or Dalot? Let's run a poll on that. On Benjamin Sesko as well, this is what Michael Carrick had to say. He is not losing momentum. It was a team last week to go in a certain way. We are trying to improve him as much as possible. I don't see it as anything else as pushing on and using what he has done as a stepping stone to do well here for a long time. So he's not saying about Benjamin Sesko, just because he didn't play in the derby doesn't mean he's not going to have a chance under me. He said he needs to use it as a stepping stone. He needs to do well here for a long time. It's game by game. Within this fan base and within, I think, Manchester United as well, we deal in such extremities. Like, Sesko doesn't play a minute in the derby after scoring 3 goals. And, I'm not saying everybody, but there's people thinking, oh, Sesko's not going to play. Sesko's not going to get a chance. It's not that. Sesko will get opportunity, but he's a young striker learning his trade. He went with a different sort of figure in Mbeumo in the derby. It worked. In other games, he might go with different players. Let me cast your mind back to when Michael Carrick was interim when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked, right? He was interim for 3 games, and I've studied them 3 games because I was very, very interested, because I just had a feeling, and I remembered it at the time. At the time, when we had them 3 games, I remember speaking to Ricky, and I remember thinking to myself, Michael Carrick's doing a really good job here. I know it's only 3 games, but he's done a really good job. And at the time, I remember thinking that. So I cast my mind back, and I went and did the research over the Villarreal game against Unai Emery's Villarreal, the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge against Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea, and the Arsenal game, which ended in 3-2 to Manchester United against Arteta's Arsenal. It was a very different Arsenal side back then, I do have to say. It was a different Chelsea side, and, it was a different United side. However, in each of them games, it was a different lineup. In the Villarreal game, he had benched Bruno and Rashford, probably because of rotation, and because at that point in time, we had, we had fixture congestion because we were playing in Europe, we're playing in the Champions League, and we were playing in the Premier League as well, and we had some big games coming up. But he benched Bruno and Rashford. And in your first game as interim manager, I think that's really, really a lot of kind of confidence to go and do that. Like, I know what I'm doing. And by the way, we had to win that game in the Champions League. He played Donny van de Beek, he played Jadon Sancho, he played Anthony Martial, and he benched Bruno and Rashford. In the game against Ronaldo did really well in that game. In the game against Chelsea, he benched Ronaldo because he wanted to play counter-attacking football. He put an extra midfield in. He played Fred, McTominay and Matic and Bruno just in front, and then he played Sancho and Rashford playing off each other for counter-attack. And he benched Ronaldo in that game. And it ended 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. It was a good result. Chelsea were better than us that season, and they finished higher than us as well. And then in the Arsenal game, he plays Rashford, he plays Bruno, he plays Ronaldo. Again, it's a different front 3. So it's interesting, isn't it, with Michael Carrick? We could potentially see a different team against Arsenal. I actually think he's going to go with the same team because I think we're going to employ a very similar strategy that we did against Man City. It's that sort of side. But in the upcoming games, you will see little changes, and I think you can see with what Carrick is saying there about Sesko. He will be used, he will be important, but it's about waiting for your time. And when you get that time, proving, why you should be in the starting 11 and having it to be a game that suits you and your style and your attributes. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what he does against Arsenal. My gut feeling is that he's going to go with the same team because I think we will need to do a lot of the same things as we did against Man City. I think we'll want to counter-attack, and I think Dorgu, Mbeumo and Ahmad are excellent at that. and I think he'll kind of employ them three in the front line to provide that energy, that pace on the break, and to kind of stretch the play. I think he'll go with the same team because it did so well, but you never know, there might be some sort of changes. But I've got in the comments there who should start at right back versus Arsenal, Dalot or Mazraoui, and let me know what you think. Then let me just kind of talk about what he said about the centre forwards as well. So he got asked about why he played Bryan Mbeumo as a centre forward in the Manchester derby, and he said, "It is a variety in terms of strengths. I gave him a free role to drift. Benny's great on the line. Josh can do a bit of, he's very good at bringing players into it. He does a bit of both. It is great to have that flexibility in terms of carrying the game to the later stages." So he spoke about how each player is different. You know, Josh is quite a mix of what Mbeumo can bring and Sesko can bring, although what he doesn't have, which Carrick failed to say, is the pace. He doesn't have that pace to kind of get him behind. Mbeumo can get him behind. Ben's great on the line. And Josh is very good at bringing players into it. It depends on what type of game you're playing. And that kind of gives each player hope that they could be used in different games there. And that free role for Mbeumo up front just worked brilliantly against Man City. He really, really did. And then he also mentioned, I think in his press conference, it's not in the quote, but I remember watching it, about how good Cunha did when he came on. He did really well and he did his role excellently, Carrick said. So again, he's just throwing Cunha in there, even though he's not asked about it, and he's saying, look, you can't forget about what Mateus did when he came on. Like, he did really well. He carried the ball super well for us. He defended well, which he did. That second goal, it was his hard work and his persistence that got us there. Dorgu made an excellent run. It was terrible defending from Man City, honestly. But that second goal, it just gives you that sense of security, and that was a really important part of the game as well. So yeah, all good on that front, with Carrick talking about his technical decisions and why he goes for certain players. We've got Josh Langton in here in the comments saying, the problem with not playing Sesko is he was just starting to score and this will probably dent his confidence. Jason Langton, I've just explained what Carrick's doing to stop that from happening. I don't know if you've missed it, but he said that he's not losing momentum. It was a team last week to go in a certain way. We are trying to improve him as much as possible. I don't see it as anything else as pushing on and using what he has done as a stepping stone to do well here for a long time. I think he's sort of taken the pressure off him a little bit. And okay, yeah, he probably will have hurt him when he didn't get a minute against City, but he'll be talking to him behind the scenes, and he's also said in the media he will be used for certain games. It was just a different style in that game. I mean, if I was Carrick, actually I probably wouldn't say this, but you could sort of allude to it. Look, I benched Ronaldo against Chelsea. Ronaldo, who's like the best player in the world. Maybe not anymore, but he's one of the best players that has ever been. And he was absolutely crucial in that United side. I know, there's a lot spoken about Ronaldo, but what he did in that United side, considering the situations that we put up against him and, the graveyard shift that he had, I thought he did really well. On hindsight, looking back, but, I benched Ronaldo against Chelsea because I wanted to go with counter-attack football. It's a certain game and it's nothing to do with you. So don't lose confidence. Them 3 goals were fantastic and your time will come. Your time will come. You're a young player. Who should start right back versus Arsenal? Get your comments in. Oh, 82% of you guys say Mazraoui. To be honest with you, I don't mind who starts at right back. Dalot had so many poor games in a row that I was desperate for Mazraoui to come back. I think against City, he did pretty well. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to kind of... Whether a player, has done poorly for games on end or they've done fantastically for games on end, I see a game how I see a game, and I look at every player as the way they've played it, and I make a decision how I think they've done, if they've done well, if they've not. It doesn't matter if a player's been frustrating me recently or whether they're on top of the world. I do look at it like that, and Dalot had been poor for so long, I was like, get Mazraoui back. And I'm so happy we've got Mazraoui back. However, I do think in that City game he did quite well, to be honest. But let's see. Let's see what Carrick decides to go for. Seeing what other people have put in the comments there, just seeing if I've missed anything. Well, let's talk about some of the other things that Michael Carrick had to say before I kind of talk about the transfer news that is coming. So, on Kobbie Mainoo, he had a lot to say about Kobbie Mainoo, and there's been talks about Kobbie Mainoo potentially signing a new contract at Manchester United. I know Goldbridge spoke this morning about it potentially being spin. I don't think it's spin, I just think it's obvious. Like, I don't see why it needs to be a news story. Kobbie Mainoo wants to play for United. He's always wanted to play for United. He's always wanted to sign a new contract. He doesn't want to leave on a permanent deal. Even when Ruben Amorim wouldn't play him and it felt like back against the wall, he was asking for a loan. He didn't want a loan with a buy option. He wanted a loan. He wants to stay at the club. The fans love him. Most of the fans. I can't speak for everyone. I think he's an example of what, you know, a Manchester United player coming through the academy from young ages, and that is the club's DNA. And I know people don't like to hear that, but our club thrives off our academy. Of course, you've got to be good enough, and you don't just get into the team because you're an academy player. But fans love to see the academy thrive and do well. And Kobbie's been really important since he's come into the team. He had that amazing performance against Man City in the FA Cup final. He ended up going to the Euros, and people are really disappointed to not see him kick on under Ruben Amorim. He's now back in the side. Yes, it's only been one game, but his first start to the season, and he was fantastic in a Manchester derby. He thrives in big games. He covered the most ground that anyone's covered off the ball for Man United in the Premier League, so he dispelled that physicality rumour that came from sort of when Ruben Amorim was in charge about how, you know, he can't be physical enough to play in the midfield. He did really, really well. I'm not saying give him a contract based off one game, but Michael Carrick is probably going to use Kobbie from now until the end of the season. Casemiro's already announced his leaving. We don't know what's going to happen with Bruno Fernandes. I think it's 50-50. Remind me to bring in the news I've got about Bruno Fernandes as well, you know, sort of towards the end of the show. Ugarte, let's be honest, is probably going to be tried to be moved on. You know, we need a midfielder that is got longevity at this club, and he's an academy graduate that we know has super amounts of talent. He's 21 years of age, I think, Kobbie Mainoo. Like, the sky's the limit. So he's going to get a contract. Like, it's going to happen as long as he's playing. And if he continues to play, which I think he will under Carrick. So, yeah, it's one of them. Anyway, this is what Carrick had to say on Kobbie Mainoo and him coming back into the side. He said, "I really enjoyed working with Kobbie. I've known him since he was young. I started working with him when he was 13, 14 years old, when I was going through my badges. This club needs young players coming through and laying the foundation for understanding what it means, not only for the players on the squad, but for the club and the supporters. It is something we need to grasp onto and build on, and Kobbie is a prime example. To come through so quickly and have that rapid rise, he had to play in some awfully big games and had to impact those, and it shows an awful lot of quality in terms of his character and being able to handle it. Part of a career is having a few ups and downs. Sometimes it goes in different trajectories, but what we saw last week is what he can bring. It was great. He's quite straight-faced. He doesn't give you an awful lot, but you can see in the way he's played and expressed himself, he was enjoying himself, and to see him like that, it was really great. So, yeah, he's going to be playing Kobbie, and Kobbie's probably going to sign a new contract. I don't know what Kobbie will expect from a contract, but this is what's going to happen. And just on that note, we've timed it perfectly. There is a Fabrizio Romano update coming out right now on Kobbie Mainoo's contract and his situation at Manchester United. So, what Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted is Manchester United started planning some time ago for Kobbie Mainoo's new contract. It will be a key topic again soon, as since Carrick arrived, Kobbie feels important and is happy to contribute for Manchester United. So, I mean, one thing I would say about that is, Fabrizio is a brilliant reporter, and I think he's definitely well-sourced information, but I think that could be a bit of spin, to be fair. As I think Kobbie will get a new contract. I think he'll get a new contract, I think he'll stay, and I can't wait for him to stay. This is what I've wanted, because I don't want to lose a player of that quality. I love watching him play, and the fact he's an academy graduate as well, he's an example to me of the type of players we should be nurturing at this club. However, I don't believe United have been planning for some time for Kobbie Mainoo's new contract. We heard that the club were willing to sell him in the summer and in January to back Ruben Amorim. So which one was it? Do you know what I mean? Like, we report on the news every single day on the United stand, so I know what's going on around Manchester United every single day. And there was reports coming out that United were going to go as far as to entertain deals for £40 million to sell Kobbie Mainoo to back Ruben Amorim. That's what came out. That is what came out recently. You know, we had reports saying that United were willing to sell him. I'm buzzing he's going to get a new contract, and I think he will get a new contract. And you know, I just when he played that absolutely superb game against Man City, covered the most amount of distance off the ball for a United player this season, and then kind of just believe that, I was loving it, because we knew people who, you know, kind of remember what Kobbie was like when he first broke onto the scene, like, and a lot of United fans will do that, although there is a lot of recency bias in football. We know how good he could be. So I was buzzing when he kind of dropped that performance, for his confidence, for his future, and I wanted him to stay. However, I don't believe that United were planning for some time ago for Kobbie Mainoo's new contract. I think they were willing to sell him at one point. So, I don't know. I think what has happened is Ruben Amorim is now gone, and Ruben Amorim was that stumbling block. I think if Ruben Amorim wasn't here, the club would have wanted to give Kobbie a new contract. He's an academy graduate, he's super talented, like, it makes sense. But Amorim clearly didn't fancy him. Mainoo clearly didn't enjoy, you know, his time under Amorim. He was barely getting any game time, and he felt like he was kind of being pushed aside. He was basically a last choice midfielder. There was rumours about him going to Napoli. There was rumours about a loan. There was rumours about a permanent deal. I mean, I don't think there was a contract kind of in the works then. Like, what were they going to do? Go and say to Kobbie Mainoo, we've got you a new contract here. I know you're not playing any football, and I know you want to play football, but we've got a new contract for you, even though you're not playing. Like, that, I don't think that happened. I think what's happened is Amorim's gone, Kobbie Mainoo's super talented, Carrick's kind of come in and thought, I'm so surprised he's not been playing, go straight back into the team, and he's dropped a brilliant performance, and he's going to be used from now until the end of the season, and United want to protect that asset, and they want to go and give him a contract to do so. So, yeah, I think that'll happen. I don't know how much he'll be given, though, because it's a very interesting situation, because he's super talented, and if you think about before the whole Amorim situation, you would have thought he's going to get quite a decent contract. I'm not talking silly money, but quite a decent contract. Now, he's had so much time out, he's come back, and yeah, he's shown what he's about, but you can't just give someone a massive contract based off one game. Like, I know he's shown it in the past, but I think there's got to be quite a few games put together before, you know, the right figure is put together. I'm not in charge of doing the contracts, and I'm not in charge of, you know, coming up with a weekly wage for Kobbie Mainoo. So they'll have to discuss that between agents. But I'm excited that he's going to stay, and I think he will sign a new contract. So yeah, hopefully he can push on under Michael Carrick. I can't wait to watch him play against Arsenal as well. Like, even Sesko. I'm not going to give away the preview too much, but opposition fans don't want to play against Kobbie, and that's like kind of when you know as well you've got a good player on your hands. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comments. And just based off that as well, this is what Carrick had to say around being involved in transfer talks, long-term decisions. He said, for the week or so, I have not looked too far down the track. The initial thoughts have been on what's happening now. Any decision I make or my staff make or the club make is not short term. It is not just to get through to the end of the season. I have responsibility, whatever happens next, for it to be in a good place and moving forward. Make the right decisions. As time goes on, I'm sure I will be part of it and we will work our way through it. So he's basically saying, I've not made any quick decisions as of yet. I'm not talking about transfers as of yet. And that kind of adds up, because Ben Jacobs said on our show yesterday, and he said on the Football Terrace today, that Carrick will be involved in whether he wants a midfielder. And if he says to the club, I want a midfielder, they'll go out and they'll try and get him one. If he's happy with what he's got, they won't. So he's not made these decisions yet. He's just trying to get through the work he's got, and his focus is on win the derby and then go and winning at the Emirates as well, which is going to be a big task. So he's not got through all of them decisions he has to make. But what he's saying is, I'm not just going to make a short-term decision to benefit me. What the decisions we make as a club has to be good for the future and the long-term vision of this football club. And I think that was a really good answer, to be honest with you. He also talked a little bit about Casemiro's exit and Maguire's future. It was a big press conference, this. I mean, by the end of Ruben Amorim's tenure, you had about 5 minutes, and then it was cut short because it obviously wasn't a happy mood, and you don't want bad PR cut going out there from a United perspective, so they probably tried to keep it short and tight. Right now, you know, everyone's buzzing about Carrick in the derby, so you can talk a little bit longer. So Casemiro exit and Maguire's future. I've actually just seen a really interesting comment as well, saying, I wonder if Kobbie Mainoo will be our January signing. Honestly, it feels like a new signing, and I'm not eating that up. I'm not sat here saying, yeah, Kobbie Mainoo's a new signing. It's not that. I still think United needs to be more ambitious when it comes to reinvesting in the squad. However, it does feel like a new signing because he's not just some, but he's an excellent player that just hasn't been used. It's like he's just been there. We've not used him. It's like we've signed a really good player and he's going back into our team. So it's like a new signing, but it shouldn't be classed as a new signing, if you get what I mean. But on Casemiro's exit and Maguire's future, Carrick had this to say: it is coming into that time of the season with contracts. January is January with the window. We are working away through that and coming towards the end of the season in terms of contracts and decisions. There will be conversations and discussions in good time and at the right time. The announcement for Cassie was for clarity. It was decided before I arrived, so it's not just a knee-jerk decision. So Carrick's like, look, I didn't just say Casemiro, you go in. On Casemiro didn't say as soon as Carrick's in, I'm going. It was actually decided before Carrick got here, which is interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, to be honest with you, looking at the situation. He then also said the type of personality and character he is, it shows with his performance last week, where he is mentally and how much it means for him to be here and finish the season strong. I've already had that conversation with him. He's desperate to do well and finish well, so I've got no doubts about him at all. And I saw Kobbie talking about this actually, and I actually disagree, and I might be naive about it, but I think Kobbie was saying, well, he's not going to go fully into a tackle now. He's not going to want to, injure himself, or you're not going to get 100% of Casemiro from now until the end of the season. I disagree, and I might be naive. Obviously, Casemiro's not going to want to go and get injured before the World Cup and before signing for a new club. That is obvious. However, I still think Casemiro will give 100% of himself. I think he's that kind of player. Like, you don't win that many trophies. You don't have the career that Casemiro's had if you don't have a top elite professional mentality. And look, he knew he was leaving the club before the City game. He won man of the match, and whether he was man of the match is a different story, but he won man of the match and he was up there with man of the match. And he didn't do that by shirking tackles and just kind of sitting back. He was fantastic and he gave everything. So I think Casemiro, I mean, I spoke about on the show when he was leaving yesterday. I think what he is, he's had ups and downs, and he's not always the old Casemiro, the absolute prime Casemiro. But if you take out that middle season where he had kind of that off season where it was the whole Jamie Carragher leave the football before it leaves you, his first season was absolutely sensational. This year, I think he's flown under the radar of how good he's been for us. I think he's a top professional with a top mentality. He's shown that in his time at United. He's shown that in his career. And I think he will give that from now until the end of the season. I feel that, but let's see what happens. Gaz United feels like a new signing. Well, it does. Like, I'm not saying that to be like, oh yeah, it's like we've got a new signing, well done to the owners. No, the owners need to do more. We need to do more. We need to show more ambition, and I'm not hiding away from that. But Kobbie Mainoo does feel like a new signing because we've not had him for basically the whole season. He's not started a Premier League game, even though he's been fit for most of the time. So it feels like, you've got this brilliant player back. Or it feels like, say, if, for example, do you know when a top player has a long-term injury and then you get them back finally, you're like, oh, finally they're back. Like, it feels like that, even though he's been there all along. Also, the last thing that Carrick said that I'm going to bring in is about the mood in the camp and team news. So this is what Carrick said. He said, I will not tell you the team. Not everyone... Sorry. The way people write out these quotes sometimes, it's when you're reading them out, it can be confusing. But he said, I will not tell you the team. Everyone came through the game really well, actually. It's been a good week, a big result and a big performance and a big uplift with the feeling inside the stadium. It's finding a balance between getting the encouragement and confidence from the game and performance and keeping level-headed and keeping our feet on the ground. We have got another big game coming up. One game does not make you a great team. It gives us a great foundation to build on. There is a lot of confidence, a lot of good feeling in the group, but measured with that is that we know what is coming and we know we have got to be ready for it. I love all that from Michael Carrick. I think it's exactly what he should be saying. So, yeah, not going to go and put out the balloons and the banners for, you know, saying the obvious, but what else is he going to say? I think it's exactly how United should be attacking this game. You know, we need to take confidence from that derby win, but just because you've won one really important game, you've got to keep that going. Like, we'll celebrate when we get Champions League football. Every game from now until the end of the season is a cup final for United, and Champions League football is the aim, and that's where we've got to be. But look, I did say I was going to bring it in before I wrap up the show, and I really want to bring it in because I think it's something that is going to be a discussion point over the next few weeks. So I'm going to sort of leave it with you guys. So this is what has been coming out. It came out earlier today. Bruno Fernandes still has not decided on his future. His dream is to win the Premier League or Champions League with Manchester United and then leave. His entourage wants him to take a Saudi deal and see it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but he does not want to leave Old Trafford without winning a major trophy. And that just sums up Bruno Fernandes, and that's why I absolutely love him. What I would do to see Bruno Fernandes lift a Champions League or a Premier League with Man United. Look, there was obviously some comments under that news report saying, well, he's going to have to be here until he retires, because Man United are nowhere near winning a Premier League or a Champions League. And even as one of the most optimistic fans, I feel like, and glass half full kind of people, even I know that is an absolute stretch. However, what I will say is I think Bruno Fernandes, what you're supposed to do, do you know what I mean? Sit there and say, I'm never going to win anything with this club. You've got to have that mentality where I can do this, we will do this. He's going to have a long, hard think about his future at Manchester United in the summer. I think if Man United get Champions League football, he'll stay, just for a chance. You know, never say never. You know, shoot for the stars, land on the moon. Do you know what I mean? Do I think United have a chance of winning the Champions League next season? No. Do I think we have a chance of winning the Premier League? No. However, Bruno Fernandes with that sort of mentality, it doesn't have to just be one more year. I think he's got enough in him to stay for another 2-3 years. You know, look at how fit and sharp he is, and I think he's 31. Look at what age Modric played to. I'm not going to say he's going to stay until Modric's age, and La Liga is a different pace to the league of the Premier League. But I think Bruno has got years left in him, and I would like him to stay. And I think he will stay if we get Champions League football. I'm not saying he's going to win a Premier or Champions League, but what I would do to see that, and I think it is sort of leverage as well for him to go to the United board, the United hierarchy, and say, look, I have come to Manchester United Football Club to win a Premier League or a Champions League. I have been here through project after project after project, and I have been your best performing player, and I'm the captain of this club, and I want to stay, I want to fight for Man United, it is my dream club, and I want to win the biggest trophies. However, to do that, you need to act quickly. I need some big signings in the summer that are at the level to compete, and we need a series manager who's at the level to compete. I don't need a 10-year project. I need a 2-year project, or, you know, I need a project that's going to get us back quick. And I'm not saying you can't just fix it. You can't just, you know, kind of paper over a crack and expect everything to be amazing. No, I don't get that. But sometimes you just need to invest a bit more to get there quicker, to get to your destination quicker. So, yeah, I still think it'd be very, very difficult to go and be that competitive overnight, and I still think it will take time. But there needs to be some serious movement from Manchester United this summer, absolutely. And just on that, I'm just kind of going to bring in something else that was said. Ben Jacobs said on the Football Terrace this afternoon, Man United sources insist they want to keep Bruno Fernandes as he remains part of their long-term plans, but Saudi dealmakers have not given up on signing him this summer. Dialogue remains open despite sources close to the player stressing no decision will be made until after the World Cup. Also, Man United inquired about Ruben Neves, but his wages are deemed as too high. Also, Al Hilal do not want to sell and are trying to make him sign a new contract. Ben said that on the show yesterday. And this is what Michael Carrick was sort of alluding to as getting through the list. Ben Jacobs also said, Manchester United have continued talks with Michael Carrick in recent days about possible transfer market opportunities, with a late midfield move still on the cards. So we'll have to see what happens. If it is a late midfield move, guys, don't expect an Elliot Anderson or a Carlos Baleba, that's all I'm saying. It's going to be an absolute makeshift, and it's kind of frustrating that's, you know, it's like we need to be this ambitious, and it feels like we're like down here right now. But look, let's see what happens. In terms of What you can be looking forward to tonight, though, is on That's Football. We have Bundesliga live with Goldbridge, St. Pauli versus Hamburger. The Hamburg derby, you've got to be there. I mean, who wants to miss the Hamburg derby? Come on. Come on now. Get yourself over to That's Football. 7:15, you're watching the game live and you're also watching Goldbridge at the same time as well. And then Saturday night, you have Bournemouth versus Liverpool, 5:30 kickoff. Watch along on That's Football. Has anyone seen that Andy Robertson going to Spurs move, by the way? Absolutely out of left field. Crazy. Crazy. And then on Sunday, you have Countdown to Kickoff with me and Mauds. Back on a match day and I can't wait for it. So 2:30, we will be live from the studio, counting down to that game at the Emirates. I'm actually going, I'm calling it now. I'm going for United win, 2-1. I'm confident. You can't stop me. I'm confident. And then the watch along versus Arsenal will be with Goldbridge at 4 p.m. And then we'll go straight into the player ratings, fans forum, and all of that as well. So got loads to look forward to this weekend. It's going to be fantastic. Jack Cassidy says, is it hamburger versus cheeseburger? Look, if you're getting a hamburger over a cheeseburger, you need to look yourself in the mirror and have serious conversations, like genuinely. But it's the Hamburger derby in the Bundesliga. It's St. Pauli versus Hamburger, and it's on That's Football at 7:15. Make sure you get yourself over there. But look, that was Michael Carrick's presser. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved. Thank you for getting involved with the polls, the chat. Smash a like on the video if you've not already. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you on the next one.